Live from the SABC's Auckland Park studios, welcome to this evening's episode of The Watchdog. My name is Vuyo Mvogo. Here's what we have for you this evening.
Groundbreaking power sharing agreement. A groundbreaking one. I have done deals. I have never done a deal like this in my life.
We'll speak to Kingmaker Gayton McKenzie on being the biggest winner of coalition talks so far, as well as Herman Mashaba on why he's having a completely different experience. Analyst Professor Mcebisi Ndletyana then shares his perspective after watching DA and EFF leaders John Steenhuisen and Julius Malema reporting back on their experiences and frustrations. But first, some good news on a struggle some of us may have forgotten: HIV and AIDS. We speak to the doctor hired last year to breathe life into South Africa's ailing HIV and AIDS program. All of that coming up in tonight's edition of The Watchdog, which starts right now. She was hired late last year to breathe life into the country's ailing national AIDS program. Today, Dr. Stembisile Xulu addressed the Interministerial Committee of the South African National AIDS Council, where she spoke about what the country will be doing to mark International World AIDS Day on the 1st of December, where she also touched on her plans to turn the organization around. She joins us now on the line. Good evening, Doc. Thanks very much for your time this evening.
Good evening, Vuyo, and good evening to your viewers. It's my pleasure.
Well, when you were brought in late last year, I mean, the organization was struggling financially. A situation, of course, made worse by the COVID-19 pandemic. But there were also other problems, like, a lot of uncertainty among staff because they had very short contracts. The organization wasn't able to run efficiently. A year later, how would you describe the situation right now?
Thank you so much, Vuyo. So it's been a year, and I would say that the support and the guidance that we've received from the Office of the Deputy President has been immense in terms of supporting the turnaround for SANAC and working with an arm of National Treasury in terms of making or creating a sustainable governance and funding strategy for SANAC. So what I found essentially was a scenario where SANAC had been funded primarily by two departments, being health and social development. And some of that funding had come to an end, which had meant staff contracts had needed to be ended accordingly if there was no long-term financial planning. And it was really disheartening, Vuyo, to find that situation because had it not been sorted, it would have meant we would have had to close our doors. But I think the understanding, not only from the SANAC chair, who is the Honorable Deputy President, but also from the ministers of the Interministerial Committee, that where SANAC is important is in driving the multi-sectoral response in terms of HIV, TB, and STIs in this country. And it's important that we be funded from the fiscus in order for the response to be sustainable, but more than anything, for the response to be country-owned. So I have managed, I would say, with the leadership and support of the Office of the Deputy President, to secure not only a short-term funding plan, but we're working towards finalizing a longer-term funding plan. But one of the things which was not in my key performance areas when I arrived was the issue of staff contracts, because since inception, SANAC staff have been employed aligned to the term of either the donor, being 3 years, sometimes being under, and the CEO mostly at 5 years. Now, if you'll allow me to elaborate, Vuyo, the average age of an employee at SANAC is anything between 35 and 42 years old. And these are young people that have got young families, that take public transport to work. They are paying rent, townhouses and flats. And I really didn't see it as a useful a way of utilizing their time, especially in a country where the HIV response was ailing because of COVID-19, because they spend the bulk of the third year of their contract looking for a new job, because the average length of stay is also 3 to 5 years based on the type of contract you're on. So I took the situation on, and I said to myself, one, in order to improve staff morale, but secondly, in order to make sure that people focus on the task at hand, which is to reinvigorate prevention, to find patients and bring them back on treatment, we need to give people certainty around employment. So I went to the remuneration committee of the board to present a case around turning staff contracts from fixed term to permanent. There was an understanding from our donors to be able to make provision for retrenchments in case we do need to retrench, and also an understanding, I would say, from the government side. And one of the things that I've then managed to do once REMCO approved was to take it to the board. So all our staff at SANAC, effective 1 November 2021, are permanent employees.
A good story indeed, but one that actually, led to many people saying, the HIV and AIDS struggle is a forgotten one.
Very, very true. And I would say, especially with the impact of COVID-19, we found a lot of diversion of resources, not only human, but also financial resources from HIV, TB towards COVID-19. And this was the situation globally. We also found that patients themselves were unsure of the fact that health services were rated as essential, so they were not coming forward for testing and also not coming forward not only for their clinic visits, for clinical reviews, but also to pick up medication. Services like voluntary medical male circumcision came to a complete standstill at the height of the lockdown. And as I said, hence the importance of my staff at SANAC being focused towards assisting the Department of Health as well as the other IMC departments, because HIV is not just a health issue. It does require a multi-sectoral response. And we then decided to defer the current NSP by 1 year in order to reinvigorate the response with activities like, for instance, the chronic courier medication and distribution of medication, where our patients are allowed to pick up medication closer to home, as well as multi-month dispensing, where patients are able to get 3 months supply rather than come to facilities where they are scared of contracting COVID-19, for instance.
Now, as the Deputy President reminded that meeting which you addressed earlier today, we're sitting with a situation, among others, of vulnerable populations who continue to be disproportionately affected by HIV and AIDS, especially adolescent girls and young women between the ages of 15 and 24. And he pointed to last week's statistics, which show that more than 34,000 teenage girls gave birth in 2020, and 688 of them were younger than 10 years of age. Shocking statistics, he called them, and we can't agree with him more.
Absolutely shocking statistics, Vuyo. And I think this is where then I say it's important that the response in terms of HIV, TB, and STIs and the teenage pregnancy statistics that you've just given us is multi-sectoral in nature. I think if you look at, for instance, the SANAC Interministerial Committee, adolescent girls and young women, and the teenage girls, the ones that are teen and under 10, are within the Department of Basic Education, and others are within the Department of Higher Education. So there are programs that we are doing through those departments. If you look at the fact that social behavior change when it comes to, addressing issues of behavior, related to gender-based violence, and issues of poverty, child-headed households. Those are under the ambit of the Department of Social Development. So there is a lot of work that has to be done around how the Department of Health links to the Department of Social Development, as well as the Department of Justice, in order, to make sure that these issues are addressed. And I would say within SANAC in particular, we have got these technical task teams that are headed by deputy ministers that are looking at these issues. And for instance, one of the interventions is to make sure that comprehensive sexuality education is offered at schools, so that young people who find themselves in the middle of situations, whether it's unwanted pregnancies or things like bullying or cyberbullying, which sometimes result, in them committing things like suicide, so that they are empowered with the skills to deal with such situations that end up with statistics like that. So we really need a truly multi-sectoral response and better collaboration between departments, because actually, a lot of the cases, especially for under 16 girls, are actually statutory rape.
But I mean, we've heard this before, everyone talking about, collaboration between departments, sexuality education, which you have just mentioned. We've heard everyone talking about, deputy president after deputy president, as of course they become the ones who are who preside over or chair SANAC. We've heard them talking about dealing with the root causes, the economic, the social, the psychological, the legal, and what have you. But we don't seem to be making as much progress, if any.
I think, Vuyo, if you look even at the work that is happening among adolescent girls and young women, especially as it relates to, for instance, their economic empowerment, because as I mentioned, a lot of the social and structural drivers relate to things like poverty, things like child-headed households, and situations where girls, young girls, are then, sent out to try and make a living for the home. So we've got many programs led either by the department, by government, or by development partners like Global Fund and PEPFAR, where we, through addressing girls that are not in employment, not in education and not in training, are able to offer them certain skills in terms of economic empowerment. And this is done essentially through some kind of a risk assessment, where we are able to then provide them with training, either from in terms of entrepreneurship. We're able to provide them with training for instance, learner's licenses or driver's licenses. We're able to help them with skills for acquiring jobs, for instance, getting CVs ready and some computer skills, and also in terms of attaining bursaries. But the expectation then is that they do join the AGYW, or the Adolescent Girls and Young Women's Program, where they get access to comprehensive sexual and reproductive health services, where they get tested for HIV, for TB, and if they're HIV negative and they are at risk, they get put on pre-exposure prophylaxis, and if they're HIV positive, they get put on treatment. So we are seeing an expansion of those programs. We are also seeing an expansion of programs that address adolescent boys and young men, because it's become obviously clear that the answer does not lie only in addressing issues related to young girls and leaving men and boys behind, because we've seen that these young girls are impregnated by men that are older than them. And the truth, Vuyo, is that men don't access health services, men don't test, and men don't take treatment. Therefore, through the men's forums, through the SANAC men's sector, through the Department of Social Development, there is a whole array of programs that are targeting even, sexual partners of these girls, and also, older men, as I said, in terms of the reluctance for health-seeking behavior, which we have seen even with the TB prevalence survey, which shocked most of us, that the incidence of TB in men is quite high than we expected.
Very quickly, Doc, we have less than 2 weeks to go before us and the rest of the world commemorate International World AIDS Day. What can we expect? How is South Africa going to mark the day?
All right, so under the leadership of the chair of SANAC, who is the Honorable Deputy President, Mr. Didi Mabuza, the SANAC is coordinating the country's activities in Limpopo. So we are going to be commemorating World AIDS Day in Limpopo in a stadium called which is in Chikundu village. The theme for World AIDS Day this year is working TB and COVID-19, as well as get tested, get vaccinated, and adhere to treatment.
We're having serious problems with that line now.
So that is our particular theme. So on the day, the Honorable Deputy President.
Okay, we want to leave it there, Dr. Xulu. Apologies. That line is disappointing us at the very last minute. Dr. Stemsile Xulu, who is the CEO of the South African National AIDS Council. She inherited an organization that was in a bit of trouble last year, no resources, frustrated workers, and from what I was told, which gave rise to this interview this morning, she has really worked hard to turn that situation around. And today she addressed the Interministerial Committee of the South African National AIDS Council to brief them on her plans for International World AIDS Day, which comes on the 1st of December each year, but also what she has done up until now to turn the situation around. You heard her talking us through that, and I'm sure it's not the last time that we will be speaking to her. Up next, we speak to the winners and losers of the coalition talks so far. Biggest parties, the ANC and the DA and the EFF, appear to be having it tough and rough. DA leader John Steenhuisen and Party Federal Chairperson Helen Zille updated the media earlier today on progress that they have made so far, or was it lack thereof?
Political parties have approximately 1 week left to formulate councils. This follows the official announcement of the 2021 local government election results 2 weeks ago. On Monday, the DA met with the IFP, the UDM, Action SA, Freedom Front Plus, Patriotic Alliance, COPE, and ACDP. The DA has admitted that those talks have been quite challenging.
The numbers there and the results have thrown up a huge number of very highly complex configurations of parties. And it is proving quite a challenge to bring people together around a common set of values and principles to form those coalitions. But we've been heartened. There have been a number of talks.
The party is certain on one aspect, that its key principle in the coalition discussions is a capable state where appointments in municipalities are based on merit. The party has drafted a guiding document for the discussions and possible agreements.
We're not going to just rush into coalitions for coalition's sake. That we are prepared, if we cannot put together a coalition based on principle, value, on a shared program of action, all of which are set out in a written coalition agreement, which the parties must become legal signatories to, then we are quite prepared to step back, take our seats on the opposition benches, and be an excellent official opposition.
This, the DA leadership says, is the reason their negotiations with the Patriotic Alliance fell apart.
Gayton McKenzie's been very direct about this. Right from our first discussions at the Results Centre in Tshwane, he said to me, look, forget all of this stuff. What I'm interested in is money and jobs for my people, and that is what we're going after. So he was very direct. And when there is such a bad fit in terms of values, it's obviously not an ideal marriage. And one would never even think of signing an anti-nuptial contract with a partner who had such a fundamentally different outlook on the world.
It's all about patronage politics. It's about dispensing jobs. It's about being able to influence who gets which tenders. And that's clearly something the DA does not want to get involved in.
The DA also announced a number of councils that the party have in the bag. The two leaders have again emphasized the party's long-standing position that it will not work with the EFF nor the ANC. What remains absolutely clear is that these political parties are yet to find common ground. And with the deadline fast approaching, the leaders will soon have to decide on a way forward. Yolisa Njamela for SABC News in Johannesburg.
Well, the EFF is also having its fair share of frustrations. Their leadership today shared their exasperation with the media.
Time is fast running out for political parties to form coalition governments at the different hung municipalities. The EFF has been in vigorous negotiations with different political parties to tackle this issue in order to have operational municipalities. But the party leader says nothing tangible has come from their meetings with the ANC. This because the ANC delegation did not concede on any of the tabled issues.
There is nowhere in the 66, right, where the EFF is going to vote with the ANC. No way. And the EFF is going to try and destabilize the ANC, even in Mangaung and everywhere else where the ANC has got 50% and not more. Even where they've got 51, 52, we have done it in Northwest. We're going to try and do it again now. You'll see.
Malema says all they want is to make sure that services are delivered to the people.
We're not disparate to govern. We're not going to do everything in our power to get into government by compromising the fundamental principles which are going to change the lives of our people.
The EFF leader says he doesn't foresee a situation where the country will need a re-election. Now the EFF says as things stand, it's still willing to talk with other political parties that will see conclusions being reached and service delivery being a common trend across all municipalities in the country. Abongile Dumako, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, as you have heard from those clips and from everything that was said in those stories, these stop-start coalition talks between the country's political parties are already paying off handsomely for some, but very frustrating for others. My guest for this segment of the show, Patriotic Alliance President Gayton McKenzie, who seems to be the biggest winner so far, as well as Herman Mashaba of Action SA, who doesn't seem to have had a great deal of luck so far. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks very much for your time. Gayton McKenzie, you struck the biggest deal of your life, as you called it, in the clip that has been circulating on social media. What exactly have you done or achieved?
Well, basically, thanks for having me, and good evening to you and to Mr. Mashaba. I think for us, it's a big deal because we've managed to sit with different political parties. And we've come up with, the ANC has given us the necessary respect and they've listened to us and we negotiated a deal. That deal was negotiated over a period of a week and a half. And we have received around, out of the deal, I think 6 or 7 mayors, including deputy mayors. We have achieved to negotiate to get, I think it is 16, 17 MMCs. We have achieved, we also managed to get our own municipality out of the deal.
Well, Helen Zille and John Steenhuisen says all you are interested in is money, jobs, patronage.
Firstly,
and that they were not
I've got
prepared to
I've
give
got
it to you.
jobs. All right, firstly, let's get the two things straight. Number one, I've got money and I've got jobs for people. So when I speak to Helen Zille, I'm not speaking for myself. I don't work for white people. I said to Helen Zille, Helen, if you want to talk to me, I want money for my people and I want jobs for my people. Money means tenders. Why is it that in Cape Town there's no problem when the same companies are getting tenders? We didn't come into politics here to come and sit in opposition. We didn't come into politics here to come and just sit and get crumbs. We want our business people to stop being subcontractors. The people I represent must always be subcontractors. They must also get the money. There's 80 billion rand. There's an 80 billion rand floating in Johannesburg, in the city of Joburg. Why is it that it never reached the people that voted for us? That is about to change. She can spin it all she likes. She knows for a fact that I was very clear. I was clear with everybody we've met that this is what we want. This is what we want. What we asked Helen Zille, we told the ANC the same. We told the Freedom Front Plus the same. And we said we want MMC's position. She does not speak about that.
Mr. Herman Mashaba, what has been your experience?
Well, it's been quite a journey, complex one. I think let me first correct you about Action SA has had some luck. There's absolutely no luck whatsoever in the electoral outcome. It's something that we worked very, very hard towards achieving, because when we launched our party, the mandate from our supporters is that we must go out there and unseat the ANC. And if
no,
you
I said
look at
in the coalition talks, not the outcome of the election itself.
Yeah, no, I wanted to correct this, because if I don't correct it, then your listeners will actually be under a wrong impression that we got where we are due to luck. There's absolutely no luck whatsoever. So in terms of the coalition talks, there was still, as far as I'm concerned, a long way to go, because I don't really, I'm getting a sense that we are not negotiating in good faith. And that's my own personal interpretation so far. We had a meeting yesterday, and we agreed to either meet today, and obviously the DA claimed to have had other engagements. We will then meet on Thursday to pursue the discussions further. Up to now, we've not had anything from the DA. We've only had a press conference talking about their own values. It looks like their values are superior than anyone else, as if other people don't have values. That's really something of really very serious concern to us. So up to now, they've not actually confirmed with us. And our goal, I spoke to our team to see if they've come back to us if we are going ahead with the meeting or not. Obviously, because of their superior values, they will come back to us when it suits them, when their values that are of a higher nature will come back to us. So I'm obviously quite concerned. We'd like to really establish a situation where we can all govern. I think most of the parties who were in there yesterday, facilitated by the Freedom Front, because they're the ones who arranged this meeting, I think the opening remarks, everyone committed to negotiate and negotiate openly, brutally, but in good faith. But I'm not really getting a sense that we are negotiating in good faith. And this is, for me, of major concern.
So it is not true what John Steenhuisen was saying earlier, that it's proving it to be a challenge to bring together people to coalesce around principles, or if indeed they do have some principles that they can't compromise on, they haven't told you what or made you understand what those principles are. Which one is it?
Well, Vuyo, from the beginning, with the DA, where I think I have a sense that they were trying to negotiate a divide and rule kind of strategy, talking to different parties separately, as if they are the main coordinators of this discussion. Until Freedom Front Plus last Thursday said, guys, we cannot really work like this. Let's get together and iron this thing out. Let's bring all the parties together and discuss this matter. We actually, as Action SA, founded the venue where we met. We've not asked anyone to really come to the party to assist us to pay for the venue. But we're comfortable with this because it is for the country. We want political parties that wants to form a government and provide service delivery to South Africans and the municipalities where we're supposed to govern. But at the end of the day, the DA, the stumbling block that all the parties rejected was for the DA when they said, because for some reason they claim to really be a bigger party, therefore they want the mayoralty in both Johannesburg and Tshwane. And all the parties, without exception, said, please don't insult us. There's no big party here. We are all equal because no one has got outright majority. So we then said to them, where they could not agree, we said, please go back to your principles, but whatever it is, come back to us. Tell us which municipality you want, Johannesburg or Tshwane mayor, but you can't have them both. So they says, no, they're going to be consulting the federal executive and come back to us. Now today they had a press conference, no mention of the issues discussed in that meeting were discussed. Now, how must we read out of this? I don't know, Mr. McKenzie was in that meeting. If ever what I'm saying, I'm talking nonsense.
No, well, no, not. Vuyo, there's something I want to add this, but I think Mr. Mashaba forgot. It is true. The DA are lying. They are not being honest. I'll tell you why. They say we are selling our votes to the ANC. We are doing this. Action SA is difficult. Let me tell you, there was a time where the DA said in the meeting, they want both mayors. They want Tshwane and they want Joburg. I then stood up and I said, listen, in order to, because I saw there was a bit of tension with it because nobody agreed with it. And I said, let us do this. The PA will give you our vote in Tshwane and in Nelson Mandela Bay, and then we will support Leader Herman Mashaba for the Joburg mayor. It was us that said that. We said we will support Herman Mashaba as the mayor. And then we thought, at that moment, I thought, yeah, we have a deal. Because the PA says we will take our votes, we will then support Herman Mashaba and Helen's, and we'll give our votes to the DA in this. In exchange, this is what we want. They flatly refused. They said they are the bigger party. Excuse me. They said they are the bigger party. They negotiate in bad faith. They negotiate in bad faith. They say that people want power. Now I'm asking, what do they do with all the awards that they've been winning, the municipalities? There's power for them. They don't want to share. The DA wants everything for themselves, and they want all the mayoral positions. They want everything. They are They are liars. They are not telling the people that we are close to a deal. Before I said, I am leaving. So I want to just concur with what Mr. Mashaba is saying, that we were willing to give him our votes and say he should be the mayor. And I even went to the extent of saying, because we know that he will deal with the issue of the illegal foreigners. Now today they are calling and they've got lots of stories. They're just doing divide and rule. I agree with you, Mr. Herman.
Mr. Mashaba, what happens if there is no breakthrough? The current stalemate continues, especially given your stance that you want nothing to do with the ANC?
Well, I think let's not talk about the ANC. I've made it clear 300 years is not a long time. I might decide to talk to the ANC at that time. So right now we're talking to other political parties that wants to really see ANC out. Our mission as Action SA is to unseat the ANC. There's just no chance we can speak to the ANC. If we are unable to finalize the deal with the DA would really be very, very unfortunate, because every party that was in that meeting was committed to the process of forming a coalition arrangement, both in Tshwane and Johannesburg. And it was highly possible. Mr. Mackenzie can tell you, when he raised the issue of me being the mayor, I said, Mr. Mackenzie, Action SA has got capable people who can obviously play that role. I don't have to be the mayor. I'm happy to just be a councillor. I said, I don't even need a seat on the executive. When he said, if you remember, Mr. Mackenzie, that's what I said. I said, I don't even want, I said, I'm happy to be an ordinary councillor, but if obviously the other parties want us to really lead, to really take the mayorship, we'll take it, and we are happy to put someone forward so that we can deal with the issue of DA hatred of me, because obviously there's bad blood between DA and I, and I'm not in this business to be friends with the DA. We want to do what is best for people of this country. We must leave our personal egos behind us. We must leave our arrogance and our superior mentality, because the thing is, if you operate like this, unfortunately, that's why you will collapse this arrangement. And I'm telling people of South Africa, if this Johannesburg and Tshwane do not work, DA must take responsibility, because all the parties which were there yesterday can confirm. You can talk to all the parties that you've mentioned who attended the meeting. If this municipality, this Johannesburg and Tshwane, they go to the ANC, then DA must take 100% responsibility for the arrogance in leading to the situation. Because we were happy with them to say, we will give you every support to let us work properly, transparently, and whatever agreement that we conclude, we'll share it with the nation so that the nation can hold us accountable.
Well, I mean, it's for that reason that some people say that you shouldn't have or be closing the door on the ANC, because you don't know what may happen next. Now, short-sighted is not a word that they used, but they say as much. And I want you to take a listen to what Julius Malema at that EFF briefing had to say about you and the experience of these coalition talks.
Time is fast running out for political parties to form coalition governments at the different hung municipalities. The EFF has been in vigorous negotiations with different political parties to tackle this issue in order to have...
SA left us on the table, we are still there. They know where to find us. We have not shut the door for Action SA. The man wants to come, let him come and talk to us, we have no problem. Because we've taken a conscious decision to be extremely patient with Mashaba, because he's a political illiterate. So such people you have to take along. You don't be impatient with them. He doesn't know politics, Shem. So from time to time, he will make those things that he makes, but he's going to realize over a period of time that politics don't work like that. And then you can't, by virtue of being called commissars in the EFF, commissar means a doctor of society. So when society is sick, you don't become impatient. No, you look after them. So Mashaba is sick politically, so we'll look after him. We will not abandon him. Even in the council, they were going to hold his hand in the opposition benches. If we ultimately go into the opposition benches with him, when he gets lost to the bathrooms, hey, this way, we have been around this side of the benches. You don't go the mayor's bathroom, you go the other way. So we are ready to take him under us.
Quick response, Mr. Mashaba?
Well, very proud to be politically illiterate. I think this illiteracy actually is working to my advantage, and I think it's a great compliment.
Gayton Mackenzie, Julius Malema doesn't seem to think highly of the both the deal that you've struck with the ANC, or the deals, I should say, and of your party. I want you to also take a listen to what he had to say around that.
See, when you look at the leader of the PA, the way he's speaking, the way he's so excited, I don't know if some of you saw his thing. He says he's got a mayor, he's got this. They wanted us to do that. Hey, we've got a municipality here. Hey, we've got municipality here. Okay, what are the issues? What is the coalition pact? What have you agreed on? We've got this. Helen Zille today in the morning said, I don't know if he said the name, but he said someone came to him and said, don't tell me about those things of issues. We just need money and positions. And that sounded like PA, Mapantit. Hey, I didn't hear what Helen Zille said, but when she spoke, I said, SG, did she say the name? SG said, I just said the issues, I didn't hear if she said the name. But this sounds like Mapantiti, where you go, this one. Money and positions. That's all. So now Mapantiti, really. Don't go around asking for such things.
Gayton?
He had 800 seats at a time. He couldn't even get one mayor. He couldn't get one municipality. We had 80 seats. We've got mayors. We've got a municipality. He's bitter. He's angry. He calls Herman Mashaba a political illiterate. That is, how could you even do that? A man that has done so well. He calls me a Mapantiti. He forgot that Kenny Kunene started the EFF. So the EFF was actually started by a Lipantiti. So when Kenny was in the EFF, Kenny was that self-made commissar of them. He doesn't know what is a commissar. So there's no time for him. Even the journalist, he's just a comedian. His time is over. So I'm not even going to entertain him. What we are here for our people. We have no time for insults. Politics of insults are over. People need jobs. People need opportunities. People need their lives to be changed. Now you're busy insults. Those things, we are over those things of insults. And we want people with intellect that talk, that can discuss and all those things. How can I be excited for a position that I'm not even going to fill? I'm excited for my people, not for myself. Because now for the first time, our people can also be part of the table where they share the different opportunities.
Gayton McKenzie, Herman Mashaba, thank you to both of you for your time, but also your insights into what has been happening over the past week or so. Both of them, of course, leaders of Action SA and the Patriotic Alliance, respectively. Now, Professor Mcebisi Ndletyana watched both briefings that the DA and the EFF had, and of course was listening in on the conversation we have just heard with Herman Mashaba and Gayton McKenzie. He joins us now for his reflections. Prof, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. I want to start with what Gayton had to say tonight, both in terms of how he has played the game, but also what he is now ending up with.
Well, they obviously have seats. They have something to bargain with. And they are keen on visibility. They are keen to occupy positions that give them visibility, that show off their victory. And of course, it was quite blatant about wanting money, about wanting positions. I'm not sure exactly what he means by wanting money. It's a little bit worrisome because the last time their track record in Johannesburg, the city of Joburg, was not entirely clean. Where they got the MMC for economic development, I think it was, which placed them in charge of the city dip market. Sunday Times published a very scary story of how they hounded out managers, how they wanted to know what tenders were coming, who to give them to. So the market was derailed somewhat, and I'm not sure if it has recovered from that. So I'm a little bit concerned with that statement that they want position, they want money. Of course, there's another way of looking at this. We have to expand the pie. We have to ensure that we don't give contracts to the same group of companies, the so-called evergreen contracts. If that's what Gayton means about wanting money for his people, I'm all for it. Expanding the pie, making sure the process is fair, not favoring the same group of people. But if what he means by wanting the money is a repetition of what his
talks about
party did
his
at
people.
the Senate dip, well, you see, well, his people could be black people, poor people. It could be people who've been marginalized. I maybe mine is a very generous interpretation. So he will have to explain himself perhaps. But what is worrisome for me is what they did at the city dip, because there he really was aiming to please his people.
Herman Mashaba, on the other hand, is at the opposite end. Nothing has come of engagements and the advances that he has gotten from anyone. What do you think of his strategy and of his stance?
There's a lot of animosity there. There's a lot of animosity there, and I sense that it's quite bitter. That he's been stood up. He's been stood up. He says they claim to have better values than his party. They said they would come. They are not coming. So it's, it shows, I think, the anxiety that the DA has, especially about Herman. Herman is a very strong figure. He's clear and determined to do what he wants to do. And that relationship broke up. He left the DA mainly because the Cape Town-based crew could not control him. And my sense is that they fear a repeat of that strong independent mayor who would do as he pleased, hopefully for the betterment of his city. So there is that anxiety. And Mashaba is also, yes, he might be saying that he's not keen for the mayoralty, but I think he does want it. And the fact that he's heard from the way he's sounding that the DA is not calling him is an indication that he does want that. All parties want visibility, so that you can claim something come next election, that you have done something. And in the case of Mashaba, the reason why he's done so well in Gauteng is particularly because it did something, and he was able to distinguish himself from the party, to do not just the DA, but the ANC as well, to do common sense things and apply a lot of rigor to his job.
Looking at what the ANC has been able to give Gayton Mackenzie on his account, obviously, do you think there's still room that perhaps the other parties may look at what Gayton has been able to get out, of it, may then just turn their backs on the Democratic Alliance, and perhaps say, we may just secure some advantages if we were to, gravitate towards the ANC?
Well, I'm not sure if there is still anything to be gotten from that relationship with the ANC. Let me backtrack a little bit and say, I'm not sure exactly what the ANC wants. I'm not sure if the ANC has heeded lessons from the past 5 years. They had a problem, especially here in Johannesburg, with Gayton Mackenzie. So one is not clear exactly what their deal entails. Is it a binding deal? Does it have legal force? What's the mechanism to resolve conflicts as and when they arise? Because the issue about these coalitions, that you can always get into a coalition, and people will always tell you everything that you want to hear, or they think you want to hear, to get into some kind of a deal, because they're eager to get into positions. But the challenge comes in sustaining those arrangements, in negotiating through conflict situations. People will say, I won't do this today, but they'll turn around tomorrow and do it. And that's how the PA and the ANC alliance or coalition broke down the last time around. So what have they done now to ensure that the PA doesn't revert back to its old behavior of taking the money, as Gayton was saying. So it strikes me, if this deal is not structured differently from the previous one, there is marks of desperation from the side of the ANC.
It does.
That they are willing to go into power by any means necessary, regardless of consequences and what previous lessons tell them.
Very interesting to find out, to get a sense, or at least be able to analyze what in it, or for them, what lies behind this kind of strategy. But the DA, though, do you think to see them coming out of the corner they seem to have painted themselves in, and being able to renegotiate with your Herman Mashabas?
Well, I mean, the DA seems to have lost its mind somewhere along the way. They take decisions that one is not clear exactly where they are leading to. Of course, there's no way that they can get any of Johannesburg, either Joburg or Tshwane, without Mashaba's party. And to play hardball as if you have another alternative is counterproductive. Because what you do then is to harden attitudes. Perhaps they are banking on Hammond being too desperate that he won't turn his back against them. But let's for their own sake, they do want visibility. I don't think they will get Nelson Mandela Bay. The ANC might just strike a deal there with the EFF. Yes, the EFF might be saying they're not going to do anything with the ANC.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, but there seem to be room for local deals here and there. I listened to Malema. Yes, there are issues of principle, broad issues of principle. And part of his unhappiness is that the ANC is not willing to compromise, or at least say that they're willing to do A, B, C, and D. That's what he's looking for. He's left one door open there to say, okay, yes, we might not agree 100% completely, but you can, offer something in return. And in Nelson Mandela Bay, I think there's a lot of appetite for the EFF and the ANC to work together. And so, they might still get something there, keeping the DA out. So which leave the DA pretty much with Joburg and Tshwane. So the hardball, I'm not sure if maybe they have a card that they haven't played yet. Maybe they'll come up with something enticing for Mashaba. But as of now, it looks like they are making Mashaba pretty angry, and that's not good for them.
But still said, they will. They're prepared to work with him and will guide him and all of that. But going back to just the point you're making about Nelson Mandela Bay and the fact that the locals there, may be getting along, and could potentially strike a deal. That is one thing. But if you listened to Julius Malema, he kept on going back to this point that they, as the national leadership, decide what has to be done. No one has either the flexibility or the latitude or leeway to actually do anything that they are against.
That's true. And I think part of the reason is them saying that the ANC is not willing to meet them halfway. And so you have a lot of brinkmanship here, people that make statements that they do not necessarily mean. But it's all part of negotiations. I don't think what Julius said today is necessarily his final word on the matter. Provided if the ANC, for instance, comes back to say, well, we'll meet to halfway. Because for me, really, I was quite impressed with some of the demands that they put forward. committing to providing sanitary towels, for instance, to girls, scratching historical debt for students, opening up clinics. All these things, they have good intentions behind them. And these are issues that we've been talking about for some time now. And at times, for instance, historical debt, there have been concessions in one university or another to get students to register or to get their results. But these are things we haven't quite committed to. So what is required then, really, for all parties and for society as a whole, is simply commit to these things in principle. And this is what the EFF has done. They've put them onto the table. They are not saying we have to accept them, but they're introducing important things into the debate. And it's up to other parties to meet them halfway. Okay. And so for that reason, for me, really, I wouldn't close the door or the possibility of them negotiating with the ANC on these things.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Thanks very much for your time and for analysis this evening, Professor SABC Ndletyana. And that brings us to the end of this evening's show. Do join us again tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. sharp. Good night.